Welcome back to Tech TV. I'm here at 5G World and I am with Alexander. Alexander, what's brought you down here to 5G World today?
Well, for a start, I had some meetings with vendors to deal with. Tomorrow I'll be chairing the virtualization track, and I wanted to catch up with what was happening before I do that. And as always, though, it's also an excellent opportunity to hear what's happening in the industry in this most important of its projects.
That's great. So I'm just going to start off with a question of how close are we to making network slicing work?
The fascinating thing here is that slicing is crucial to so many of the promises of 5G. But if there is a problem at the moment, it is that, for a start, the specification is perhaps less fully developed than it could be. If you compare the application programming interface or API of the major cloud providers, it's not that specific, and it needs to get that specific. It also needs to reach out into the radio layer, beyond the baseband units, and permit you to change how the radio works if it's really going to work out. And I think to some extent the fairly strong support for private, or as they call it, non-public networks in 5G may lead to us choosing to address some of the needs for network slicing by building enterprise networks instead, using things like the CBRS spectrum assignment in the United States, or the direct assignments we're beginning to see appear across the European Union and much of Asia.
Great. And I guess, are we moving towards a future where operators take more control of their technology?
Well, at least I hope so. I have the impression that operators tend to sell themselves cheap when it comes to the engineering, which is the core of their business. In the 2000s, many of them, especially like the second to fourth mobile operators in most countries, went in for the idea that a telecoms company was basically a marketing organization, and its network could be outsourced completely to a vendor. Now, though, they're being reconsidered as technology companies, and they've also noticed that this strategy tends to hollow out their margins and differentiation. And I think they're trying to take some of this back with both the trend to open source in telecoms and through 5G. That said, this is going to be quite a big lift, not least because so many of them got rid of much of their internal research resource over those years. It's mostly tier 1 carriers are in the lead on this, but I think there is scope for disruptive ones. If you look at what somebody like Free did in France over the last few years, that's a small carrier that's become a national carrier, and it's heavily in-house and dependent on software it develops itself, and even hardware it develops itself. And that wasn't an enormous, and that's not a company the size of Vodafone or AT&T. So I think yes, it's possible.
That's great. And what are the security implications of slicing?
The security implications of slicing are essentially that the network will have to become something like the hypervisor infrastructure of a major cloud provider. That is to say, it has to create security isolation between the slices, which may be specified in ways that are inimical to what the operator would like. And in fact, from a security point of view, you have to assume that they're even hostile. And you need to be able to put up with this without them either harming other users or the infrastructure itself. This is, I think, quite a qualitatively new challenge for the industry. We have many different technologies for isolating different users' traffic from each other. You have, for example, Ethernet VPN, MPLS, DiffServ, a whole load of them, in fact. But we've not really, I think, faced up to the situation where you need to isolate almost to isolate the customer from the network.
That was really insightful, Alex. Did you want to tell me more about what you're looking forward to most for the next 2 days at 5G World?
Well, apart from my own track, obviously, I'd like to pick up some interesting news about what's happening in the network deployments. I've done a bit of that today. I spoke to some of the test and measurement companies because they're usually useful sources, because nobody wants to have a test company that's telling you what you want to hear.